There you are. What's happening? Everybody around the world, this is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. What's going on? It's been a minute. Haven't done a show in a week. A week feels like a month. The months turn into years. Through the slowly shifting sands of time. What's happening, Moose? What's happening, Lou? Yeah, that was Mind Force. Shot by hate5six. We're going to get into that today. What's up, Alan? Good to see everybody. Oh, you got the record today? Good. Thank you. Got that antidote extended test pressing. Yo, Lenny, Crazy Eddie, what's up, man? Thanks for coming by the show the other day. We're going to get into that. Hey, Maurizio. What's happening in Italy? Jessica, what's up? What's up? What's up? What's up, everyone? Looking forward to today's show. There you go. But first, let's talk about a couple shows that are coming up. Just a reminder, this Sunday, Christian from Power Flow, Fear Factory, and Violence, and for a while rumored to be stepping into Biohazard, is coming on the show. A week from that, Sunday, September 26th, Sal from Sworn Enemy. Wednesday, September 29th, Jimmy Hazel from 24/7 Spies. And then the landmark 150th episode with Paris Mayhew from Cro-Mags, Agros, filmmaker. So Lot going on. It's not over yet. We've only just begun. Right? What's up, Adrian? How are you? Scott Earth, what's up? Yo, Larry Kelly, what's happening? What's going on with this guy? Huh?
What's up?
Huh? What's up? Huh?
What's going on with you?
I'm doing a show, man. I'm doing a friggin' show, dude.
I bought new headphones just for the show.
All right. Not mad at you with your new headphones.
And I got my crown on. Look, there we go.
Hey, let's do photo of the day. Here we go. I have my doubts if Steven's going to make it with all the way to the end here, but here we go. Yeah, it looks like a guar costume, somebody said. That's great. Yep. Yeah, finally spending some of that union money on headphones. Finally, take off your yarmulke and buy a goddamn pair of headphones. You know? All right, let's do photo of the day. Here we go. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Wrong answers only. Photo of the day. Boom. Oh, and there goes Steven. All right, photo of the day. Hopefully, Rich Zola, what's up? Ray Hogan, how's things in the funeral home? Damn, sorry to hear that. What's up, Rich? All right, what do we got here? Some of you might recognize this one. We just posted it. What do we got here? All right.
Hey, there we go.
All right. Photo of the day. Someone, okay. Is it the Dixie Chicks? Is it Get Your Shoes and Socks On? People, it's right around the corner. Is it Harley Quinn? Is it someone forgot their deodorant? There's sand in my shoe. The Lay's potato chips is photos coming up next. Is it a bowling alley hardcore show? Is it Mom? Is it Women of the Pit? You know what? You're right. I should put the Women of the Pit thing up for this, right? Where is it? There you go. How about that?
Yeah, we should have.
There you go. Women of the Pit. Is it the Village People? All right. Is it Get Smart's granddaughter? That's funny. That's funny.
That's
I'll give
right.
you that.
That's right.
It's kind of funny. Not mad at that. Who's the actor on Get Smart?
Don Adams.
Don Adams, right.
Wasn't he also Inspector
Is it a
Gadget?
Spice Girl? Is it Cocaine is a Hell of a Drug? Is it There's a Hole in My Shoe? Is it Shoeless Joe Jackson? All right. Tell us what this is. Let's get down to it because there's a couple of pictures.
You know what? That is our friend Shay, actually. Yep. And this was celebrating our first day on new home. We brought the back to the New York Chronicles new Roots music series over to the Bowery Electric now, and right a few blocks down from the A7. And we had an amazing day with bands like Fang and Antidote NYHC and The Last Stand and Ayanus and Ape and Reaching Out. And am I missing anybody?
No.
Yeah, it was great. It was
Nothing But Enemies.
Oh yes, but Enemies, who I liked, by the way.
Yep. Yeah, they were cool.
It was just a really fun day. Everybody came out and represented, and Rat Bones had a little flea market set up outside, and the kids got right back to business, tearing up the floor like always.
So what's happening? What's happening here is, and I called this out when we were on stage. Yo, teenage girls ripping it up in the pit, and like a whole slew of teenage girls.
Oh, yeah.
We're in the pit ripping it up. And this is our friend Shay, and lost a shoe, no shoe, whatever. I like this one a lot. The other photo that I love, that caught my attention, which is absolutely mint, is this one here. I love this shot.
Oh,
Bro.
that's just,
Like in the pit with the bag of Lays, bro. Like that's Ionis playing Beto. There's Sid. Hey Sid, what are you doing there?
What am I doing? I'm laughing at this kid with the bag of Lays. Like I know some people are freaking hungry, man. But damn,
hungry
like
in the pit, man.
you want to snack and mosh in the pit? That's that's up to you if you want to do that.
Is this a new thing? Is this a thing? Like I'm bringing like.
Well, I mean, I can't say it's a new thing, Drew, because if you remember when you had Joe Hardcore on the show, and they had like a big old pizza party at their show, and there was pizza flying everywhere. I mean, maybe this is more of like the less oily snack.
No, this has happened at our shows a couple of times. People
yes, it did with ice cream. It happened.
Yeah, it happened with ice cream, but I see people bringing in these bags of like chips and stuff, and they're moshing with the chips.
You get hungry, you don't want to stop, you know.
I mean, not for nothing. Like, is it going to be like potato chip wars like next? Is that what it's going to come down to?
Chucky says Sid is looking for the dip for the chips.
I was looking at something else. It wasn't a dip.
No, that's not a story of Lou. No, that's what's his name from Demise. This is Ionis. Cheeky. It's Cheeky from Demise on vocals, and that's millions of dead chips. Yep.
Yes, James got it.
Got to keep up that energy. Yep. Let me see what else I got. Here's Sid. You know what, dude? I'm not paying you to drink on the job, bro.
Hey. You weren't paying me in the first place.
Right. So have a drink, huh?
That's right. Drink up, baby. And it was worth it.
And look at the big smile on that guy's face. Come on.
Like
because they have Magners. They have the right cider.
You're not a Strongbow fan?
No, I love Strongbow too, but Angry Orchard is.
Well, that's like the Budweiser of cider.
No, it's the Coors of cider.
I don't know nothing about this alcohol stuff. Here's one or two more. Here's a shot of Fang on stage at our new home at the Bowery Electric. Fang was great. I'm looking forward. We have a couple shows out west with these guys coming up. So
I love the girl walking out of the pit holding her head.
Where's that?
Right up front, right in the foreground.
She's like It's like she doesn't look like she belongs. Like she sort of like wandered in off the street. Yeah. She's like,
see, but I give it to the kid, the one girl wearing the mask in the pit. She don't give a fuck.
Yeah, that's kind of hard. Look how many girls are in the pit. What the fuck? This is for Fang.
I gotta tell you, I really enjoyed them. I brought home a handful of Fang bucks too. I got home.
Yeah, at first I saw a 20. I was like, oh wait, oh damn, it's not real money.
Here's the last one. Here's the last one from the show. It was real great. A lot of people came down to support it. Of course,
there he is.
There's Lou Kohler from Sick of It All, and that's Michael Scandato, who actually played the show with The Last Stand. Yeah, Michelle, Women of the Pit coming. It was all teenage girls in the pit when Antidote played. What?
Hey, even I came out of semi-retirement.
Yeah, you did.
Drew.
I saw that.
Yo, Sid, you ripped it up when we played. I got to give it up, dude.
Yeah, you were like, wait, who the hell's that?
No, Sid, I never seen you rip it up like that.
Yeah,
well, it's been quite a few years. I had to pull the Rat Bones semi-retirement plan.
It looked like you were having a good time.
Oh, it was worth it. Look, come on. We've been dealing with this crap for X amount of months. It was a stacked show.
Oh yeah.
Here's
many
the
people
next
came
show.
out.
For those that are wondering, we're not doing a show in October. We're coming back November 7th. This is a free all ages show at our new home, the Bowery Electric, with Dog Eat Dog, Kings Never Die, Crazy Eddie, and Dead Crew.
And DJ Sid the Kid.
Yeah, see,
right.
at least you fixed it this time, Steven.
Yeah, I would have fixed them myself. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I appreciate the effort.
Wait, was Sid wearing his own shirt at the show? I didn't catch that.
No. I was wearing an AF shirt.
Oh, he was wearing an AF shirt.
It's faux pas. No, like we all know it's faux pas to wear your own band shirt on stage, unless you're the Exploited and
unless you're Iron Maiden. Yeah.
Iron Maiden, Metallica, Misfits, and a couple other bands I can't think. Slayer and a couple other bands I can't think.
It's Doyle's birthday, by the way.
Roy Ramone says the reason there's so many girls in the pit when Antidote NYHC plays now is because I'm a YouTuber. And all the young people love YouTubers. Oh, I
You're
was
an
wondering.
influencer.
I'm an influencer, right?
That's it.
And I'm just the instigator.
Hey, happy birthday to Doyle. It's his birthday today.
I know. I talked to Doyle this morning. Happy birthday, Doyle, man.
Yeah, come on the show, goddammit.
Listen, you want to know a secret? I'm talking to Doyle about the show actually falls out on a Halloween this year. So I'm talking to Doyle about coming on, but
that would be awesome.
That's good. That's gonna be literally on Sunday.
Yeah, he don't want it.
Oh, Halloween's on a Sunday. Oh, there you go.
Yep. There's something big that's still being worked on at the Barrio Electric. Even I.
Uh-oh.
That's all I could say. That's if things behave and shit chills, it will happen. That's all I know of from said people who are doing it.
Oh, okay. Very serious.
Yeah.
All right, happy birthday, Doyle. There's
There
me,
he is.
me and the vegan monster.
What is up with your YMC?
Look at the mustache.
Yeah, you know.
Were you one of the Village People like stunt doubles, bro? For real?
Nah, I was. Yeah, there you go. Shut up, Sid.
And like he knows anything about good cider. Frank can't talk. He doesn't know what good cider is.
Hey, let's get it on. Listen, I'll talk to you guys later.
Good.
All righty, later on.
All right, later.
See everybody in a little bit.
Later, Steven. All right. This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live, and we are sponsored by New York Hardcore Comics, The Organic Grill, Chain Reaction Records and Skateboards, DTFM Vinyl Distro, Chacho's Tacos, Generation Records, and the Texas Silver Rush. It's a jewelry design firm and boutique store located in the birthplace of the Texas country music scene in Fredericksburg, Texas. They specialize in working with musicians in all music genres to design and create unique one-off pieces, as well as to style them for stage, album covers, promo photos, and, amazingly, social media exposure. Their client list includes Rock Roll Hall of Famers Greg Rowley, Ringo Starr, and, of course, Agnostic Front. During this current pandemic, all information and online sales are being taken on their Facebook and Instagram pages, and, of course, www.thetexassilverrush.com. Also, Generation Records since 1992 has been a mainstay in the New York metropolitan area music scene. Today, they offer a diverse selection of new and used rock, jazz, indie, hip-hop, punk, hardcore, metal, blues, soundtrack, and reggae LPs, as well as T-shirts, posters, and other merchandise. They buy used record collections and music memorabilia and will pay you top dollar for them. House calls made for large collections in the tri-state area. Call or email generationrecords@gmail.com and follow them on Facebook and on Instagram. That said, you know what? Let me throw this one in here. We're going to bring our guest on. Let me throw this in there. I don't think this show's been really announced, but let me announce this one. How about right here, Wednesday, October 6th. Here we go. You wanted it by popular demand. Handsome Dick Manitoba coming on the show from the Dictators. Dick has a lot to say. This should be interesting. So that is a new show, Wednesday, October 6th. So there you go. That said, what's that? Antidote and the Misfits will be playing NorCal the same weekend in October. Is that right? When are the Misfits playing out there? All right. All right. You're going to go see the Misfits? Do what you got to do. I'm not mad at you. Do what you got to do. Hey, listen, bro, you're going to go to this Aftershock thing for 4 days? God bless, dude. You're going to put up with that for 4 days? Have a day, dude. By the way, it's not Sunday. Shout out to Roger and the amazing job everyone did with the GoFundMe. Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, let's bring on our guest. Hey, let's do a worldwide internet live video talk show. All right. Let me clear the deck. What the heck? Let's bring on today's guest on this lovely Wednesday. Today's guest is an American filmographer, programmer, and music archivist hailing from the Garden State of New Jersey. He primarily records and uploads footage under the name hate5six. Billboard magazine has referred to his content as, quote, the biggest factor, end quote, for the popularity of hardcore in the 2010s. Please welcome, coming at us from South Philly, PA, a fellow musical archaeologist. Really happy to have him on the show, Mr. Sonny Singh. Hey, man.
What's up? What's up, Drew? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Good. Happy to be here.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I feel like I don't remember when we first talked about doing this, but I've been following your interviews for a while. So, and I think this is what episode number one. What is it? 100 and
this is 146. But I've also
that's
done
crazy.
Yeah, I've also done a couple bonus in between. It's really about the 151st or 52nd episode I've done.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean that's a huge milestone. So I'm happy to be on here.
Yeah, and I'm happy to have you. And I'm excited to have you because I consider you a peer. And what you're doing is you're documenting history, and I know. You feel the same way I do about this stuff, is that this stuff is important, and there's a historical value to it, and it should be documented. Am I right with that?
Yeah, that's 100% right. And I mean, I'm humbled that to hear that from you, because I would not be doing any of this if it weren't for people before me filming like bands and shows and just live music and music videos, because that's how I discovered this stuff and got me hooked on it. So for me, everything that I'm doing is trying to pay forward like the pathway to discover bands that worked for me. So people like you, and yeah, you're right. This stuff is so important to document because this is our culture, and we can't expect someone outside of the culture to come in and do it the right way. So whatever scene that you're in, if you're in skateboarding, BMX, like whatever your scene is, like there's going to be someone within that scene who's documenting it, and those are the people who are like, I'd rather trust someone in the scene to do it rather than some external person coming in. And like I said, the older that I get, I find myself reviewing old footage just to remember people who have passed, whether they were in a band or someone in the crowd who passed away, and just seeing these people enjoying live music is like one of the purest things that you can, that's one of the purest things you can do it in life, is it going to a show. And so I really feel like archiving this stuff is important. Yeah, one, to just get people excited about music, but to also just to capture people doing and enjoying the things that they love.
I feel like guys like you and me are sort of the modern day Alan Lomaxes. We go out into the field. We have the accessibility, and we get in there and we document stuff. And in a lot of ways, and I'm speaking for myself here, and I'm sort of making it, and I'm assuming I'm speaking for you, being that we're kindred spirits, is that a lot of times, I almost don't feel like I'm doing it for myself. Although I love doing it, I love doing it. I just feel that there's an inherent value in this stuff, and it's important, and it needs to be documented.
Yeah, 100%. I don't like every band that I film. It's not that I hate certain bands.
Exactly.
But not every band is my cup of tea. But I think it's important work, because the way that I look at it is these 4 or 5 people on stage, put enough time into creating this art. That's something to be, witness. I mean, someone's pouring themselves out, like that in and of itself is worthy of being documented and preserved. And the other part of it is, even if I don't like it, like that doesn't mean that someone else somewhere isn't going to like it.
That's right.
And my whole thing is, I as much as I want to create content that appeals to the masses, like I really just, if one video of a band can get one kid hooked onto hardcore, then that video is a success, even if no one else likes it. So that's how I really approach it, is that like from a purely archival documentarian perspective, is like, this is the thing that's happening. I'm there to witness it. I'm going to document and preserve it and put it out there for other people to engage with it however they will.
Right on, brother. So let's what's the latest, and how is this current global never-ending pandemic, how's it changed things for you? What's been going on with you, for the past year and a half? Have you had to change gears? Like, what's the last year and a half since this thing started been,
Yeah, in a weird way, the lockdown was good for me to reset, because I was getting to the point of burning out towards right before it, because I was in Australia and Japan, and I went to like India for a personal trip, all in the span of like a short period of time. And I really think in hindsight I needed a little bit of a reset, just to like ground myself and to get caught up on this backlog of videos that I had been filming. So that was the first thing, was just getting a chance to rest was in hindsight much needed. The other thing is it forced me to branch out and think outside of the box. So during the lockdown, I did like 24 or so live streams with bands, like literally streaming them live from a studio in real time. And not many people were doing it. So we did, during the first week of the lockdown, Code Orange was set to do like their record release show for their massive record that just came out.
Sure.
And I was scheduled to go out to Pittsburgh to film it like a regular show. And 48 hours beforehand, the band called me like, "Hey, the show's off because this pandemic thing is getting like kind of serious, so we can't have an audience. Do you want to try live streaming it?" And I'm like, "I've never live streamed before. I'm sure we could figure it out." So we figured it out like within 48 hours. And
wow.
During that stream, like we streamed live on Twitch, we had 13,000 people watching concurrently. And again, that was literally the first day that like the shutdown was announced. And I think that was the first COVID-induced live stream to happen. So that really got me motivated to branch out and start doing a lot more of them. So like I said, I did maybe about 24 during the lockdown. Everything from like bands that I've filmed before to I did like a couple bands playing their first show as a live stream on the channel.
Wow.
And those bands like blew up. There's one band like the day before, sometimes I track statistics. For example, like the band it was this band called Grishka. They had maybe like 60 followers on Instagram. We did like the live stream of their first performance. And after that went up, the next day they had 2,000 new followers. So it's like these videos and these streams have been like such a stepping stone for a lot of these bands that I've really been motivated to continue doing that. So I ended up upgrading all of my gear to allow me to do these sorts of live streams much easier. The other thing that I was doing was I was live streaming a lot of protests during a lot of the unrest during last summer. Like literally on the street, broadcasting live, and my stuff was aired on New York Times, CBS, ABC, CNN, things like that. It was used by the UN to argue a case about police brutality in Philadelphia. So I've been keeping busy however I can. Just as long as I have a camera on me, I'm happy.
Let's talk about that a second. Let's although we sort of steer clear of heavy duty stuff, but I feel like let's talk about that because that was really interesting. Explain to us what happened in Philly. That was on the highway, right?
Yeah. So this was like a couple of days after the murder of George Floyd. So there was a lot of unrest that was happening throughout the country. And in Philadelphia was just like every other major city. People were coming out en masse to protest what had happened. And so at the end of May, the National Guard and military essentially were coming into the city, and they went. So towards the end of May, what they did was they went down West Philadelphia, down residential streets, and began tear gassing just black families sitting on their porches, like elderly families babysitting their grandkids, just sitting on the porch, not even part of any protest, not part of any marching, and just tear gas them.
Well, if I may add, Philadelphia does sort of have a history, for that sort of behavior, going back, certainly going back to the 60s and 70s, correct?
Yes, 100%. Like this is in Philadelphia's policing DNA is to violently attack residents. So fast forward to June 1st, in response to all that, on top of George Floyd and everything that was happening, more people were coming out in mass to voice their frustrations and stuff. So a protest had formed, and a march had ended up on the highway on 676, and I was live streaming that and covering it. And we got corralled on the highway and ended up on an embankment, and they shot tear gas at us. And I ended up taking if you watch the footage, like I said, I was streaming it, and all the footage is on YouTube. You can see a high velocity projectile coming directly at me. It was a tear gas canister. It looked like a bullet, like that was coming at me. You can actually hear it like squealing in the air, and it clipped me in the neck. Hit me in the neck, ricocheted off the wall, and hit my arm that I was used to like hold the camera. And that's when like the tear gas began billowing, and like I had to like climb over this 10-foot wall with all my gear to get to safety. And I was wearing contacts, so the tear gas was like very close to melting my contacts into my eyes, so I had to like rip them out. So it was a very stressful, day of going through that. But that footage was used by local news stations and also by the UN to challenge the city's claims about using excessive force, because the city claimed that they were justified in using excessive force. But my footage and other people's footage as well from that day prove that there was actually no justification for doing any of that. So it sucks that it happened. But again, like the way that I look at my camera, whether it's documenting a band or documenting a protest, the function of the camera is to amplify whatever it is I'm pointing the camera at. So if it's a band playing their first show, I want more people to find the band. If I'm streaming a rally or a very important political speech, I'm trying to amplify that voice to a larger audience. So really, at the end of the day, I think that a lot of people don't like that I mix politics with what I do, but I really feel like it is one and the same.
Listen, I know you do, and it was a I don't want to say it was a stretch to bring you on the show, but it's all part of it, man. And I respect you as a filmmaker, and I want you to be here, man. So that's where it's at. How did you come up? Did you grow up in a musical household? Where did you grow up, and how did you come up?
Yeah, I grew up in southern New Jersey. My parents came here from India in like the mid to late 70s and raised a family. So I'm the youngest of three. Not so much. My parents never really listened to the radio or were really musically inclined or interested in music, but it was my older brother that got me into hard rock and rap. And I tell this story in a lot of interviews, but where
in Jersey did you grow up?
We grew up in Marlton. So this is like right outside of Cherry Hill. Like,
yeah, it's like right outside Cherry Hill. It's like what, 40 minutes, not even like half hour from Philly?
Yeah, it's like 35 minutes from Philly. So it's not far at all. So Philly was always like the home city.
I see.
But early 90s, my brother, there was that Columbia House that you could send a penny or a dime in or whatever, get 10 CDs.
Yeah,
so he did that, and he got like a whole eclectic mix. He got like James Brown, Dr. Dre's The Chronic, Soundgarden, Rage Against the Machine, and we just would sit down in his room and just listen to all this music. And like he was maybe 14, 15 at the time, and I was like 6 or 7, and that's how I really got into just music, was just this idea of sitting with my brother and sister and listening to the CDs or listening to the radio. And I didn't know it at the time, but I was starting to understand that live music brings people together. And I think that's why I document what I do, because I really feel like this music brings people together, and that's worth preserving. But I really attribute it to my older brother for getting me into music. And he took me to Ozfest in like early 2000s, and that's when I saw Hatebreed on the side stage, and that was like the first hardcore band that I saw live. But around that same time, like early 2000s, I was in high school, and I was filming BMX videos, and my friends were in punk bands, in terrible metal bands, stuff like that. And I was going to those shows, and I saw the camera that I already had to film BMX videos, and I was like, oh, maybe I can go to the show and film the band, and that will be a way for me to I really thought in 2000 that I could distribute the footage somehow. And I thought that I could like duplicate DVDs on my home DVD burner and like pass them out at school. But that was actually very hard to do in 2000.
Yeah.
So I kind of stopped doing that after a couple of years. And I just accumulated a bunch of just mini DV tapes of these bands, these high school bands that I was filming. And then I stopped.
Give us a take on like, what was the local scene? Who was in the local scene? What bands? Like, what was the circuit there like?
Yeah, it was a lot of just punk bands, indie rock bands. So bands like, I don't know if anyone's going to know these bands, like the June Spirit, the Hate Holiday. I mean, Coheed and Cambria would come and play like a small show, but that was a show that I missed. It was a lot of just South Jersey had a very rich scene in terms of indie rock and post-hardcore that was going on. And that's kind of like what I got my feet wet with, was that sort of stuff. Cause that's again, what my friends in high school were playing and going to. But I didn't really, like I said, I stopped filming it for a couple of years, and then fast forward to 2007, I was in college at that point, and high def cameras were coming out. So a lot of the professional videographers were selling their old cameras on eBay for cheap. So I picked up a Canon GL2. Which used to be a high end camera. But then once HD came out, this is like a standard def. People were discarding it. So that was the camera I always wanted. So I picked it up for kind of cheap off eBay, and then one of the first shows I filmed was with that camera as like hate5six was the Floor Punch reunion in 06 or 07 in Philadelphia.
I am.
Yeah, there I am. There's the Canon GL2. Yeah.
GL2, bro. And
I got mine somewhere back there.
Yep. I shot so that those cameras. I did a lot. I did with my GL2. I pretty much shot these 9. I did these 9 extreme sports films with the GL2. All the early Street Life Warrior films and everything. The GL2 was, man, that was That was the shit when it came out, man.
That was the shit. And once I got that, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna dive into this a little bit more. And that's when I really started trying to do hate5six as a hobby. Because once I finally had that camera.
Yeah, there I am with the GL2 there. We're in Poland right here. I'm shooting Tony D freestyle and teach. And that's you know I have my GL2. It's like charged. It's always charged. It's like a bug out bag. I have it in case there's another, like, that's my sort of, like, in case there's a natural disaster, I have it all set up ready to go and go out there. And here's a shot of you. Now this is, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a GL2 you're holding in your hand here.
No, that's the Canon XF100. So I upgraded from the GL2 to the Canon XF100 in 2011. I love the form.
Is that a card camera or a tape camera?
Yeah, it's a compact flash card.
I got it.
But it's a similar ergonomics and shape as the GL2, which is what I like, that camcorder style feel of a camera. Just the way that the weight is distributed, like, it allows me to easily hold the camera over my head and hold it in different ways. So
and I agree 100%, because that's what I used when I was on the back of hanging off the back of motorcycles. I just loved the way that it felt in my hand. It had a great balance to it. Now, you mentioned that you were riding BMX and you were sort of part of that culture. How did that overlap with the music thing?
Yeah, I got into BMX like when I was 12, probably. I mean, I've always been jumping off curbs and things like that, but it's probably like 98 when I was 12 when I really got like a legit BMX bike and started, messing around with that. There wasn't much overlap. I mean, even now, like in hardcore and punk, most of the overlap is with the skateboarding world, and I felt that in high school as well. Like, not a lot of people at shows were into BMX. Not a lot of people in school who were riding BMX listened to the stuff I listened to. It was mostly like the skateboarding kids. So, wasn't a ton of overlap, but I was really drawn to the idea of the bike as this. I played team sports, but I liked that the bike was just me and the bike, and I had to do like problem solve with the bike and try to figure out how to manipulate momentum and how to like do these tricks by myself. And I liked that challenge. And I think that even though it's not directly related to hate5six and what I do, like, a lot of what I do with hate5six is inspired by the lessons I learned from riding my bike, which is just persistence and trying to troubleshoot on my own. So I'm glad that I spent all that time on my bike and still spend all this time on my bike alone in parking lots, or like in this picture at the art museum, just an open pavement. I don't need a skate park. I just need open flat ground, and I can just use that as my canvas and do it.
Do you still ride often?
Yeah, I was out there on Sunday, and I rarely throw my bike, but I was in a bad mood and I threw my bike and I broke my axle. So I'm out of commission for a couple of days while I order a new part. But I try to go out for a couple hours each week still.
You mentioned that in 2004 you stopped shooting a little bit, and you went to college for a while, right?
Yeah.
And how did that pan out? And then what brought you back to it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that up until that point, I was filming bands in high school, and I didn't really think of it as a thing because, again, this is pre-YouTube. So I was accumulating these tapes, and I had no way of distributing that footage, and I was just I got kind of bored with it, I guess. So fast forward to 2004, I go to college in PA, and I majored in math and physics. And like I was mostly just focused on thinking about that, and I did continue to ride my bike. Like, I brought my bike to college, and I rode that every day. But I just didn't have much of an interest in filming for whatever reason. It was probably largely because I had no way of distributing it. But again, fast forward to 2006, 2007. I'm a junior at this point in college. It was a confluence of a couple things. One, the price of, again, those cameras were coming down, so I was able to get a GL2 for pretty cheap. And two, I heard about this thing called YouTube, which is a way for you to like share your footage online. And so I was like, oh, okay, maybe this is where I can start uploading the stuff that I film. Let's just try it out. Because again, in the 2000s, when I was like filming these shows, I was also into trading tapes. So collecting VHS tapes of bands that people would film at like large concerts, large venues, and duplicate it and trade it. And so there was like this trading circuit amongst like VHS tape recorders. And then there were also ways of downloading footage online through like MIRC, which is internet relay chat, which is like pre-Napster, which people would use to distribute footage, but it wasn't efficient. Like you literally had to like interact with a bot
What's the
to
other
download
one
a file.
I remember? There was another one I remember. Not LimeWire? No, there was
LimeWire, SoulSeek. There was a bunch. Yeah,
there was a couple.
But but there was no way of actually like streaming the footage. You actually had to download the file and watch it.
Right,
so,
right. Exactly.
So again, fast forward to 2006, I hear about this thing called YouTube, and I'm like, oh, maybe I can like film and start actually posting stuff. And that's that's when I was like really beginning to lay the foundations of what would become hate5six. Was at that point.
It's interesting because I'm a little bit older than you, and like I said, let me just throw this picture up here and a little background on this. I'm shooting Urban Street Bike Warriors. I'm getting blasted I got the GL2 there, but you know, I had a whole career shooting, editing. You know, I pay someone to design the box cover. We duplicate the DVDs. The DVDs would go into the motorcycle shops, and then I did multiple films, and I had a whole career, and I did very well for a couple years. And for me, what spelled the end of that era was YouTube. And once, because for a while there, being in one of my films was like the holy grail for these writers, and it would take a year to do a film, and my films were met with much fanfare. And for a couple of years, they did very well. I did very well with them for a couple of years, and then YouTube came in, and then people started shooting stuff and uploading it. So it was interesting. It was really the end of that era, when they sort of put the power into everybody's hands. To people will go out and shoot during the day and put it up on YouTube that night, and that was groundbreaking.
Yeah, it really democratized the whole idea of just creating content and just creating in general. Yeah. And so I think that really unlocked ideas in my head, and anyone else who's like a content creator, like seeing YouTube for the first time, it really allows you to think outside the box, being like, oh, I don't need a fancy production studio. I just need a camera in my apartment or whatever, hit record and whatever. Like really what it comes down to is like, can you create engaging content? And really YouTube has allowed people to unlock that. And I remember, like it really did spell the end of the DVD market. Cause I remember 2009, I hit up Joe Hardcore. I was like, hey, I'd love to film This Is Hardcore. So shout out to Floating Boy Media. They used to film the fest, and for whatever reason, they weren't able to do it. Like they used to do annual DVDs, but it would be like 1 or 2 songs from each band. Yeah. And then they did not end up shooting 2009. And I hit up Joe. I was like, hey, I'm a local kid in Philly. Like, can I shoot it? And he was like, yeah, I got no one else. You should just come out and do it. And that was the first time that This Is Hardcore had full set coverage of every band on the bill. And Joe was like, oh, you're going to come back next year. Like there's no way you're not coming back. And so that was the start of my relationship with him, was me coming on board. And again, like I came at it from the thought that this stuff needs to be documented in full and it needs to be shared in full. Yeah. And I did not expect it to be received the way that it was at that point.
And when we first met, I always associated you closely with This Is Hardcore, and just because of seeing so much of the work that you did there and the quality of it. I mean, it wasn't just somebody in the crowd with a camera. You really, I mean, you, right away, you were doing multi-camera shoots, and they were great.
Yeah. And I think that having that opportunity to work with Joe or work with bands or just on a platform of that level allowed me to like experiment and think about, okay, I did this in 2009. How can I improve it for 2010? How can I improve it for 2011? So I really, I appreciate him and I appreciate all the opportunities and the doors he's opened for me to allow me to, again, like I was just saying with YouTube, just the idea of experimenting and how can you improve your craft? How can you do better than what you did last time? Yeah. And I think that that's always something like, you're never going to be perfect. You're never going to be fully happy with what you're doing, at least for me. And I'm always thinking about how can I step it up? And I think that's something I always keep in the back of my mind, is like to never be content, to always think about like, okay, it's good now, but it could still be better. And always thinking about what steps I can do to actually reach that goal.
Yeah. And you launched hate5six. Where did the name hate5six come from?
Yeah, so I grew up in South Jersey, where the area code used to be 609 when I was growing up, but then they changed it to 856. So I attribute that change from 609 to 856 as like me growing up and growing out of like my childhood. So that's where the hate5six name comes from. But I actually launched the site 13 years ago next month. It was actually, I graduated college 2008. And fall of 2008, I was looking for a job, and this is like recession time, so it was so difficult to find a job. And again, I majored in math.
2008, man, it all a lot came together there, and that's when the DVD market collapsed for me as well. A lot of roads a lot of converged on 2008, man. Yeah.
So I was looking for a tech job, like a software job, and I just couldn't find anything. So probably like August, September, I was like, you know what? I got all this free time. I have a couple videos that I filmed. Let me build an actual website where I can actually like catalog this stuff and have like a central home where these videos live. And again, and the other reason was like, again, I was applying for jobs and I thought that, okay, I could brush up on my programming skills and use this as like, while I was searching for a job, I built this website. So it was a combination of wanting to, keep my programming skills sharp, but then also wanting to have like a central repository of the work that I was starting to accumulate. So I launched hate5six from I was living with my parents again because I just finished college, from my like childhood bedroom, like fall of 2008, and that's kind of where things began, officially at least.
And I know for you you filmed the Burning Fight Festival in Chicago. That was, my perception is that was a bit of a watershed moment for you. Could you, as a filmmaker and with hate5six, can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so that was 2009. So again, 2008, I had filmed maybe a handful of shows. The website was still very new. I was getting a little bit of traffic. And then Burning Fight was the first, nowadays we have all these crazy reunions like every other week, right? 2009, Burning Fight was like that opened the floodgate. Like that was the first time there was like a whole fest of just reunion bands from the 90s. So it was like Trial, Unbroken, 108, Disembodied. All these bands came back to play. And I got the green light to film last minute. Like I was already planning on going, but they gave me the green light to film like 2 days before. They're like, hey, if you want to come out and film, that'd be great. And I said, all right, I'll be there. And I filmed everything, full sets, and I posted it. And that's when that was like the first inflection point for hate5six, is when that stuff went up, because like that's when I noticed all of this traffic coming onto the site for those videos. And again, so that summer is when I hit up Joe. I said, hey, I'm a local kid. I just filmed Burning Fight. Like people seemed into it. Can I come on board and film This Is Hardcore? And he was like, yeah, let's do it. So I really attribute Burning Fight as being the first like door that opened up for me to allow me to try to apply this idea of filming shows in full and putting the footage out there for people to watch for free.
Now when you started at that stage, what was the procedure? Did you approach bands and say, hey, I'm shooting bands and putting, what was that dialogue like?
Yeah, it mostly was around the promoter, just being like, hey, I'd love to film the show if you were the cool with it. Because the way I looked at it, the promoter is like the liaison between the band and everything else happened. So I really went to the promoter first. And that worked for a while. In the years since and years that followed, like some promoters like, hey, it's cool with me, but you got to run it by the band. So I still do run it by bands. Generally, like if I'm trying to film a show, I'll go directly to the band first, being like, hey, you're headlining at Irving Plaza or wherever. Right. Can you, because some venues are a little harder to shoot at. So I typically try to go through the headliner first, and then they sometimes say, hey, go through the promoter. But like usually it's one of the two, either the promoter or the headlining band that I go to get permission.
Now, once in a while, don't you run into a situation where perhaps the venue has sort of this policy? I know it happens out west a lot, where like you can't shoot here. It costs this amount of money. I don't care who you are. Like I used to deal with that back in the day, like with the whiskey and a lot of places out west, especially in LA, because it's Hollywood. They're hip. They're hip. Everyone wants to make money from the film business. If you're going to shoot in here, it costs $500 or whatever. Has that been an issue at any point?
Yeah, I've hit that roadblock a few times. It's just like these origination fees, venues in New York, and actually Burning Fight too. But Burning Flight was able to convince them to like waive it last minute somehow. So every time it comes up, there's I don't know. It's not 50-50, but there's some percent of the chance where it's too big of a roadblock and I can't get past it. But usually it's able to, nowadays especially, they're with some finagling, it can be waived. So like, for example, I was in Chicago last week filming a couple bands at the Metro where I filmed Burning Fight, and they were actually they were happy to waive that whole fee and everything. So I don't know if it's just like a changing of the times or whatever, but over the years, I've run into that problem less and less.
Yeah, I would think it's a little bit of a changing of the times, right? I mean, I mean, I can't speak for LA, right? It's another world, but
it's a whole LA's a whole different beast.
It's a whole nother thing. Boy, the run-ins we had out there back in the day, you know. But when you go shoot something like when you just recently went to Chicago, how do you travel? Like, I know you shoot multi-camera. Like, what does that look like? What is your contingent that goes out of state?
Yeah, so I've found a way to pretty pack up all my gear in a handful of bags. So I really only need to check one thing in, and everything else is carry on. But for the stuff in Chicago, I was able to pack up 3 cameras. So what I'm using to stream right now is is what I shoot with now. It's a Z Cam. I actually bought 4 of these during the lockdown because they are so good for live streaming. They're essentially 4K cinema cameras, and they're this tiny little cube, right? And you can just pop on whatever lens that you want. So I bought 4 of these. They're easy to fit in my bag, and that's what I travel with. So I travel with 4 of them, a bag of lenses, and just some memory cards and batteries, and that's all I really need, and a couple like mounting brackets.
And how does audio work for you?
So it depends. There's essentially 3 types of audio when it comes to hate5six videos. There's like hate5six Lite, which is essentially I just use a Zoom audio recorder. Right. I think I sent one of the pictures. You can actually see the Zoom on top of my camera. Right. Right. It's just a portable digital audio recorder with 2 condenser mics. Yeah. The vast majority of my videos are just that, because like I'm filming in a fucking shitty basement. I don't need a soundboard recording. Like, it's just the ambient mic. So that's like bare bones. I do that. The middle tier, like hate5six medium, I guess, is I take that audio, and then I have a second Zoom recorder that I use to record a stereo output feed from the board, and then I mix those 2 together. So the board feed will give me like more of the vocals, and more of like the drums, and then I kind of mix that with the ambient, and it kind of balances out pretty nicely.
That sounds
cool. That's like middle tier. It sounds cool, and like that. Yeah. Most people are pretty happy with that. But for like high end stuff, for like This Is Hardcore, or like a Black and Blue Bowl, or like I'm filming a band's reunion show or a band's final show, I will hire someone like an audio engineer to come out, and he will multi-track the audio, like 16 to 24, sometimes 48 channels, and he'll multi-track everything, and then he'll mix that down and then combine it with like an ambient mic that I have, and that's how we get the best of both worlds. So it really depends on like the band's budget, or like the budget for whoever's like bringing me out, but I really try to like do one of those 3 depending on the needs. Like, not every show needs a full soundboard recording. Some shows are just good enough with like an ambient mic, but sometimes I just, like for example, this past Sunday in Philly, like it was a show at the church, which is like literally a church basement, and I could have gotten away with going with hate5six Lite, but I literally had someone multi-track audio because I'm like, you know what, I kind of want to go all out. This is the first show back at this iconic venue in Philly. These bands are all going to kill it, and I wanted to preserve that and capture that with the respect and justice that I figured that I felt it deserved. So I've hired someone to actually mix all that down. So that's going to be like, that's like going a little overboard for a show like that. But again, it's a special occasion, and I want to do it right.
Is that right? Drumming Moose says Len Carmichael at Landmine Studios does the full soundboard recordings.
Yeah, I was going to shout him out. So Len Carmichael. So Len, I gotta give Len a lot of credit here, because I was against soundboard recordings for a very long time. Right. I was like, no one wants soundboard recordings because it just sounds like the fucking CD. It really feels sterile when you're watching the video. I want the video to feel like you're watching it live. Sure. So Len kept, This Is Hardcore 2009, 2010. He's like, hey, you should let me come on and do soundboard. I'm like, no, I don't need it. 2012 was the first year that This Is Hardcore moved to the Electric Factory, which is like a big venue. Yeah. And I was like, all right, you know what? I'll bring you on. We can try doing it. And he did it, and he killed it, and people loved it. People loved just the high fidelity audio that we got from that.
Now, is he just going soundboard? There's no ambient room mixed in there at all?
No, so there is. So he multi-tracks off the board. So the first couple years he was pulling off the front of house soundboard, which sounds okay, but front of house for people listening, like that is already like post-processed from whatever effects are going through it. So it sounds okay, but it's not the best. So after that year, we started setting up our own. We essentially started miking up the cabs and the guitars and the drums ourselves and running our own independent feed at the back of house. So if you're at This Is Hardcore, Len is actually behind the curtain on stage with his recording gear, pulling feeds off of mics independently of what the house is using. And people don't know that. Like
you're not even messing with the front of house mix.
No. We don't mess with the front of house, or we don't even mess with the back of house board at this point. We are pulling our own channels independently, and that allows us to get the cleanest signal. And so what he does is he tracks all that, and then we also have ambient mics that we use, because the ambient mics capture the feel of the room. It captures the audience singing along, and that's really what I want in the videos. Like again, like if it's just a pure soundboard feed, you're not going to get the crowd sound, and it's just going to feel like it's going to feel too sterile. But the ambient mics is what picks up the room feel.
And how do the drums fit into this? How do you mic the drums with a couple of mics, or overhead mic? How does that work?
Yeah, so it's a combination of like miking the snares and the toms and like the kick, and then also having overheads on the mic as well. So
yeah, so this is
I leave it.
Question.
Yeah,
Roy Ramon says, does that mean every drum is mic'd twice?
Good question. For This Is Hardcore, I believe that's a lesson question for Len. I believe it might be mic'd twice. There might be some things. There might be a couple things that we take off, but when possible, we try to double mic. Again, just because the other thing that we look at it is like hardcore shows are so chaotic. Like people are running on stage, they're tripping over mics, they're knocking things out of they're unplugging things because people are tripping over cables. So we like having that redundancy of being independent from the house board. So a lot of stuff is double mic'd at this point when it comes to like This Is Hardcore and certain like bigger shows that we do.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense. Hey, let me do my sponsor shout out here. And we'll come back and we'll keep going. We'll get into a bunch of other stuff. I'm enjoying this. So let's take a couple minutes here. I'll see you in a few. What's happening? This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live, and we are sponsored by New York Hardcore Comics, The Organic Grill, the Texas Silver Rush, DTFM Vinyl Distro, Chacho's Tacos, Generation Records, and Chain Reaction Records and Skateboards. Located in Lakewood, Colorado, is the Rocky Mountain headquarters for all things punk, hardcore, and metal. Established in 2014, they have the largest selection of records, CDs, shirts, stickers, patches, and accessories between Chicago and Los Angeles. From the pit to the ditch, they've got your back. Get in touch with them at www.chainreactionrecords.com. Also, DTFM Vinyl Distro is a record store that specializes in underground music, punk, ska, hardcore, metal, and more. Located in the heart of Fargo, North Dakota's industrial district. Shop in person or online at www.dtfmvinyldistro.com, where the motto is Death to False Metal. How about what's up in Corpus Christi, Texas? Chacho's Tacos, that's what's up. They opened their doors in 2001, home of the almighty Chacho's Taco. They cook up an incredible home-style Tex-Mex food, and this month they're celebrating their 20th anniversary. They've been supporting underground music since the beginning, and in their own words, we ain't stopping anytime soon. Touring bands that play Corpus Christi swing by and get a home-cooked meal. At Chacho's Tacos, we got you. The underground scene will never die. Please follow us on Facebook or on Instagram. I want to announce a couple of other shows. Wednesday, October 13th, from Ignite, Brett Rasmussen is coming on the show along with filmmaker TJ Hoffman, who directed the film Roadie that's out there now. Brett was involved in that a little bit. This should be really cool. Looking forward to having a West Coast guy on the show. Also, just announced this one the other day. He's got a book coming out. His book is called Celebrating the Release of His New Book. I said that already. Hold on. Fathers, Brothers, and Son, Surviving Anguish, Abandonment, and Anthrax. We got Mr. Frankie Bello coming on the show. This should be great. one of the nice guys. He's a nice guy, Frank Bello. Sunday, October 17th. Look for Frank Bello from Anthrax. We'll be talking about his book. Also, Richie Crutch is coming on the show. How about that? That's happening on October 24th. Richie Crutch from Wisdom in Chains. He's got a new project called Z9. And, of course, Box Cutter. We're going to be chopping it up with Richie Crutch. Also, want to mention something else. I mentioned this a couple of times. We want to start veering off a little bit and doing what's known as some side trips here and there, and talking to people outside of the hardcore realm. Right? Take my hand. So recently, I was talking to Dee Snider's manager from Twisted Sister about bringing him on the show. And, we were going back and forth, and he said, hey, I'm also managing a couple of these other bands. And one of the bands that he said he mentioned was a band called Adam and the Metal Hawks. And I was like, I looked at the first band. I don't want to mention their name. I was like, yeah, all right. And then I checked out this band, Adam and the Metal Hawks, and I instantly fell in love with them. They're a bunch of young teenage kids. They're playing hard rock, and the singer has an incredible voice. And you know what? I want to bring him on the show. And this is really our first official side trip. These are some real young kids that love playing rock. Check them out. This guy has an incredible voice. I love what they're doing. Real youthful exuberance. And I want to talk to these guys. I want to hear about what makes them tick. And I'm really excited. I sort of lost interest in Dee Snider when I heard these guys. I'll circle back to the Dee Snider thing, but yeah, we got a lot of stuff. Yeah, exactly. Debo, this guy sings. He's on a Freddie Mercury AC/DC level. Love him. Yeah, I love. They're from Long Island. They are from Long Island. Go check them out. Just Google them. Go check them out. I'm excited to have them on the show. Also, preaching a little bit to the converted here. There is a Patreon page. There you go. There is a Patreon page, and there it is. Which brings me to this. This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles, Volume 1, 1980 to 1989. This is a project that I've been working on for over 5 years. It's at the printer now. It is a book that centers around the flyers of the era, different people giving different perspectives. A lot of people in this book. If you are a patron and you have been supporting the show, this book is free. I don't care if you're a $2 patron or a $100 patron. What matters is that you've been supporting the show and you're a part of it. This book is free to all the patrons. It's my way of saying thank you. So it's going to take a little while, but if you are a patron, you got to get me your address. Basically, you got to send me the shipping for it. It's a way I can gather the addresses. I posted a video on Patreon that explains it. I know not everybody watches these things, but if you are on Patreon, watch the video. You have this fantastic book coming your way for free. If it's free, it's for me. You're going to love this. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. Yes. Yep. If you're a patron, look at the video that I put up there. Get with the program. Ashley, you'd love to see Blackie Lawless on here, or Tommy Lee, or Nikki Sixx. You know what? With this side trips thing, I want to go out. Let's talk to all kinds of people. Let's get into it. You and me. Let's get into it. Let's talk to a lot of different people. We love the hardcore thing. That's our meat and potatoes here. But we're gonna do some side trips. We're gonna go. Woo! We're gonna veer off. Is that right? Adam and the Metal Hawks song. Yeah, there you go. Go check it out. Yes, James. You have logged over 400 hours watching. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, well, yeah. Know some guys who kill your idols. We'll get to it. You know what I say? We'll get to everybody on this planet eventually. Just give it some time. Hardcore is overrated. Well, you know, I don't know about that, but the wave goes in and the wave goes out. You know what I'm saying? It comes and it goes. But hardcore is interesting. It might be waning over here, but it's having a moment over there. So that said, there's the Patreon page. Don't be shy. Is that you, Carlos? Hardcore's overrated? Is that right? All right, good. All right, Carlos, good. Hall and Oates? Seriously, man. I'd love to have one of those guys on the show talk. Come on, let's mix it up. That said, what's going on with this guy? Yo, what's up?
What's up?
What are you doing?
I'm over at Brighton Beach today, man.
Doing
Saying
what?
goodbye to summer.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous out here. You see the beach is packed. Well, not packed, but
Brighton
I'm sure the wind is.
Brighton Beach in Brooklyn?
Yeah, there's Coney down there. You know, I love the beach. I'm from Point Pleasant, New Jersey originally. I grew up on the beach. And, you know, it's a beautiful day. The waves are kicking. You can see the waves killing it. Yeah. So I'm enjoying listening to Sonny. He's keeping the dream alive. We appreciate all those who are, you know, documenting this history that we're making.
Absolutely.
And it's cool. I don't always like camera guys on the stage, but he stays out of the way. He's always in a perch.
It's all about you, bro.
Well, you know, when I'm there.
Hey, did you have fun?
Show up.
Hey, did you have fun at our show on Sunday or what?
Man, our show was so great. It was so great to see some old friends come out.
Yep.
And it was a great show. I played the outside in the booth out there. It was awesome, man. You know, great day, great friends. They always go by too quick for me, you know?
Yeah, I think I got, let me see. Don't I have a shot of you? Hold on.
I pulled a lot of other stuff out besides hardcore stuff. I had some Famous Monsters magazines and a lot of comics and stuff. People responded really well. I'm really thankful for everyone who's bought or purchased anything off me. You know, it's really cool.
Yeah, here's a shot of you and some of you guys hanging out in front, right?
Yeah, Stevie, Felicio. And who else is that? And Steven, right?
Yeah, it's Steve, Chucky, and it's not Felicio, but yeah.
I love that guy. Yeah, so
right,
guys, have a good show.
All right, thanks, buddy.
The next go around, we're gonna enjoy this nice day at the beach.
I got your outro music. I'll talk to you later.
All right, you wish you were me. Later.
Rackbone! 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 Rackbone!
Yeah, I wish I was you, bro, out on the beach in Brooklyn. You know? Jesus. Hey, if you're watching this show in rerun, there is a subscribe button there. And please subscribe to Stone Films NYC YouTube page so you get alerts. There's also a merch line down there. You can support the show that way. And on Instagram, you can follow us at Stone Films NYC on Instagram. So please support the show. There's a Patreon address there. You saw that. The book is coming for you. How about that? Thank you, everybody that supported the show. That said, let's bring our guest back on, Mr. Sonny Singh. Hey, man.
I loved. I always love seeing Rackbone, so I appreciate the shout out.
Yeah, you know,
I think the first time I saw him might have been at the Rabies tribute. When I think he did a guest spot. Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
I mean, you came and shot that multi-camera, right?
That one, I think so. My friend Jeff, he runs Feet First Productions. He does a YouTube channel. He films out here in PA. I usually hit him up He's usually my second go-to guy if I need a second camera. So yeah, he's done that. And actually he's done some stuff for B&B. Like if I can't make it, like cause Joe hits him up and he does a lot of stuff for them too. So yeah, he was my second camera for that.
Maybe I'm mixing that. You shot the Boss Tone show, right?
I did shoot the Boston shoot too. That one was single camera. Yeah.
That was pretty incredible. You know,
that was great. It was such a great experience. Just like seeing everyone in the park having fun, man. Like that was, I mean, incredible. Like that was the only time I've seen the Bostons, and it was amazing. They're such a well-oiled machine at what they do. Drew, are you there? I can't hear you.
Sorry about that. What I wanted to mention was this Patreon thing. And a couple years ago we spoke, and you told me you were in the process of leaving your job and you're going to go full on into Patreon and you're going to give it a go. And you explained to me what it was, and it was really a bold move. You took the jump and into Patreon, and you really made a good run at it. And you know, dare I say, in a lot of ways, you're like the poster. You're like the poster boy for Patreon. They love you, man. I mean, you do so much with that platform. You really utilize that platform incredibly. And even with the hold on. Okay, even with the hate5six stuff, and I quote, "It's a democratic, community-controlled system. By having voters vote for what video will be uploaded through Patreon." Explain to us how that works.
Yeah. So again, like I was working full time, and hate5six was just a hobby, and then I decided in 2018, like I got laid off from my tech job. So many people are constantly asking me to film this show or that show, and I work a 9 to 5. I can't film everything. So I launched the Patreon thinking that if enough people support what I'm doing, I could literally focus 100% of my time filming and editing shows and uploading the content. So one of the things I was thinking about was, okay, if people support what I'm doing, what do they get out of it? Because at the end of the day, I really want all my content to be freely available and freely accessible. So even if you can't support me on Patreon because you don't have money, you should still be able to access the content. So I started thinking about what are ways in which that I could, like, what can I monetize that's not directly the content itself? And the idea is kind of monetizing people's impatience. So what I mean by that is like, you know, I film 60 sets a month, for example, but I only ever post one video a day. So I only post 30 videos a month, even though I'm filming like at least 60.
Sure.
So the idea is, if you support what I'm doing on Patreon, you're essentially funding the production of this content. Like, you are technically a producer. And so what I built using my software background is a voting system, such that viewers who are patrons can log onto the website, and they can upvote whatever videos they want to see next. And so every single day is a video. Like, I don't know what's coming out tomorrow. I mean, I could look, I could take a peek, but really it is determined by viewers. So even though it will be free on YouTube, it is up to the patrons to determine when it goes on YouTube. So that has actually worked pretty well for me, because you know, when, you know, I've been to Japan twice. Now that I've done hate5six full time, I've gone to Japan twice. I've gone to Australia. I've been able to hit like scenes in Oklahoma and Canada, things like that, places that I would not have been able to go to otherwise. And what I've noticed is that when I go to these new places and I film, like, usually it's a fest where there's a big headline band playing that is that everyone knows, but there's a lot of local bands that open those shows. The thing that I noticed is that when I travel to these places and I film the opening bands, a lot of people from those home scenes will sign up on Patreon to upvote those local bands, because they know that once those bands appear on the hate5six public YouTube, those bands are going to have a huge boost in like merch sales and listens on Bandcamp and show offers and things like that. So it seems like the community understands that, yeah, you're supporting me in the process, but by voting, you're also helping the bands that you want to see like step up to the next level. So it's, you know, having this community controlled democratic thing, it allows the community to be involved in the process. And it also removes, it's one less thing that I have to worry about. Like I don't have to sit here and worry about, okay, tomorrow's going to be this video, the next day is going to be that video. I can now focus more of my time and energy on actually filming and editing and leave that decision-making process up to the community. So that is something that I've been developing more and more with Patreon, allowing me to like to continue building this further.
And Patreon gives them the opportunity to sort of vote and tally, and you can see where's what.
No, so I do use Patreon for things like if I'm filming a big fest, I will create a poll on Patreon saying like, hey, I'm gonna film every band, but which bands do you want to see 3 cameras for? And I'll have patrons vote for which cameras. Like they make production decisions on Patreon. But the voting is a software app that I developed independently of Patreon. So the voting takes place on hate5six.com, and the only thing that I'm using is checking to see, is the person who's submitting the vote actually a patron? So I use Patreon to verify that the person voting is someone who is eligible to vote, but the actual voting platform itself is something that I built from scratch.
And who's a fan favorite per se? I mean, would that be Have Heart?
Oh gosh, I would say Jesus Piece. Like anytime I film, like Jesus Piece is currently the second most band I've filmed. I think I filmed them over 30 sometimes. The band that I filmed the most was Mindset, almost 40 times, I think. So wow. Jesus Piece is catching up. But anytime I film Jesus Piece or like Year of the Knife, those videos get voted up really quickly because people like, again, it's they're the most popular band, so that's the one that people want to see the most. So you do see those sorts of trends appear in the voting. It's like the popular bands do get voted up to the top. But not to get too in the weeds of the technical stuff, but I have developed ways of like lesser known bands. You know, if I film a band's first show, they might not get a lot of votes, but I did build into the voting system this thing that like, if a video stays unreleased for a couple weeks or a couple months, it does accumulate artificial votes, like votes from the system. So it allows lesser known bands to bubble up to the top. So I'm constantly trying to come up with ways of like keeping this community controlled, but also making it fair for brand new bands to have just as a fair shot at like appearing on the channel sooner than later than like a really popular band. So it's constantly, it's like a tug of war trying to figure out how do you balance this? Because obviously people want the popular bands, but again, like when I post a brand new band that no one knows, people that becomes people's brand, that becomes people's new favorite band. So I'm trying to come up with ways of like making sure that new bands are featured on the channel, because again, that's how bands get like, you have to be able to allow new bands to come up. Otherwise your scene's going to grow stagnant. And so I realize it's important to make sure that you give opportunities to these like up and coming bands as well.
I can relate to it. Even with this show, you know, it's, you know, you want to bring people on that might not be, you know, marquee names. You want to give them some shine and get them some exposure. You may love you may love their band, whatever. But you know, even with this show, it's not just about let me just get the biggest name I can find. You know.
And as someone who's documenting this stuff, like I think about it like every big band started out as a new band playing their first show and breaking their strings and not tuning correctly. So for me, I love documenting that progression of like, this is when the band was like kind of new, no one knew them. This is when they played that now iconic song for the first time and no one knew it. And here they are now playing a giant arena. Like I love being able to like go back, not just with my videos, but videos in general, seeing how bands evolve over time. So for me, it's super important to capture that.
When the pandemic hit, did that give you the opportunity to sort of like empty the coffers, so to speak, with all the stuff you previously shot and sort of finally take a deep breath and get everything out there?
Yeah, so I was beginning right before the pandemic hit. I had over like 100 videos in the queue ready to come out. Wow. So that's like, so again, like if I post one video a day, that's like several months worth of content right there. And I was like, you know what, like, and again, it's because I was filming at a higher rate than what I upload. And the reason is like people always say, why don't you just post multiple videos a day? Right. That's too much content. And like it starts cannibalizing itself and people don't watch any of it. And again, like my MO here, my MO is to maximize the number of eyes and ears on a band. And I don't want to oversaturate people's feeds. So it's actually better for the bands and it's better for people if I like kind of trickle things out. So beginning of the pandemic, I had this massive backlog of like over 100 videos. So I got through it, but then I was worried because like, I like being able to post one video a day. And I think the day before the first show back that I filmed, I posted the last video in my queue that was ready to go. And I was like, you know what? I just emptied my entire clip and it worked out perfectly. That I'm filming a show the next day. It was like the Madball show at Reverb. And like I was able to film that and I was able to build up my queue again. So right now, as of today, my queue is back up to like 50 sets. So I have the next month and a half worth of content ready to go. And so it did come to the wire. It did come down to the wire of like, am I gonna run out of content? I hope not, but it worked out perfectly timing wise.
Let's talk about Sage. Sage analyzes graph embeddings. Like, explain what Sage is.
Yeah. So before hate5six, again, I worked as a software developer. I was the job title was a data scientist or machine learning engineer. And essentially what I was doing, I was building AI systems, everything from recommendation algorithms. So if you're on Netflix, for example, they recommend you movies to watch. That's all through AI. They try to figure out, oh, Drew likes these 3 movies. Rat Bones likes these 4 movies. We know that Drew and Rat Bones and Sonny are good friends. So Sonny might also like these movies. So they're constantly looking at data based off of what users have listened to or watched, how they rate those things. And they try to make recommendations based off of that. So you're kind of asking the community, like these algorithms are asking the community, here are the things that you like. What do similar people like? What will similar people to you also like? And so that's how these recommendations work. So what Sage does is I built this AI system using like the experience that I had working in tech to analyze people's listening habits from Last.fm. So anyone who's listening, Last.fm is a website that tracks people's listening habits. So you know, like if you sign up on Last.fm, it'll list every band that you listen to, your top ranked bands, things like that. So I use the data from Last.fm to train this algorithm to do essentially what Netflix does by recommending, you know, I like bands A, B, and C. I don't like bands X, Y, and Z. Here are 50 bands that you might like based off of bands that you like and bands that you dislike. So what Sage is doing is it's taking this idea of a band, and I don't want to get too in the weeds with the mathematics, but like it embeds those bands in a high dimensional vector space. So that's where the name Sage is Sage analyzes graph embeddings. It's taking a graph. You can think of it like a social network, like on Facebook, like we're friends. So we're like connected by an edge, and you can think of it as like a big web. So what Sage does, it creates a web of bands that are all connected based off of how similar their listeners are. It takes that and it puts it in this high dimension. It embeds it in a high dimensional mathematical vector space. And in that vector space, you can compute things like, here's a band, here's another band that's close to it. And you can actually compute how close they are. So you can compute like an actual numerical distance between a band like Sick of It All and a band like Chromags, for example. So if you ask under the hood,
what does it factor in? Band members, record labels, geography, music, instruments.
So those are all good questions, and technically you can incorporate, like I could rebuild Sage to actually incorporate that information, but all it's doing is it's looking at aggregate listening habits. Because you know, for example, like vast majority of people who listen to Sick of It All are probably also going to listen to some other New York hardcore band. You know what I mean? So all it's doing is, Agnostic Front. Yeah. So it's really aggregating listening habits across hundreds of thousands of people. So what Sage is doing is it now knows that, okay, Sick of It All and Agnostic Front are really close in this vector space. Like their distance is close to 0. Like they're very close together, but like Sick of It All and I don't know, Turnstile, for example, they might be further apart. Like they're still in the hardcore world, but they're not as close as Agnostic Front. So that's really what Sage does, is it analyzes millions and millions of listening habits, and it's able to produce, like, it's able to come up with, okay, you like bands A, B, and C. Well, here are other bands that are close to it in this like mathematical space.
Got it.
So that's really all it does.
What's going on here?
Oh, okay. So this is a thing that I've talked about a lot in other interviews. But so people, I'm assuming you've seen the NFL Skycam, like the overhead Skycam shot.
Yes, of course.
Right. So I had this dream 7 years ago in like 2013, 2014 of building my own. So I took classes on how to use a CNC plasma cutter. So I bought airline grade aluminum. I teach myself how to use like AutoCAD to design this chassis. And so really all this is, it's a cable cam system that I CNC'd and 3D printed the parts for. And so it's a device that sits on a suspended cable. So in this picture, I have the cable suspended between two trees, and this contraption has two pulley wheels on the end, and in the middle there's a motor. There's a motor with a wheel on it, and I programmed a remote control to like spin the motor wheel in the middle. So when the wheel spins, it moves the whole device along the cable.
Wow.
So it's and underneath is where the camera sits, and I have the camera sitting on a gimbal that's also controlled by the remote. So the camera sits underneath. I'm able to control the panning and tilting of the camera, and then with the other joystick on the remote, I can control this whole contraption moving along the cable. So it's essentially like an overhead sky cam that I built. It literally took me 7 years to build. I finished it during the pandemic. So that was the other thing that I did during the pandemic was I bought a 3D printer, and I was able to manufacture all the tiny little components that I needed for it. So someone's asking, it's like a drone, but unlike a drone, you can actually I could just like a cool application of this would be going in the woods and suspending it between two trees and like following like a mountain bike rider riding through some trails. And like you could do that with a drone, but the drone might like hit a tree, for example, and you gotta move around the tree. But with this cable cam system, as long as you have a straight line of sight, you could suspend like a pretty heavy duty camera. Like again, I'm able to suspend my Z cam on it. And these things like with a lens on it, these can weigh like 10, 15 pounds. And you can't do that with like a standard drone. So
now did you use this at This Is Hardcore?
No, I wanted to. So I wanted to use this at This Is Hardcore, but the venue is like, do you know that scene from A Christmas Story where the kid asked for the BB gun and Santa's like, "You'll shoot your eye out"? I remember going. I went to the planning meeting for This Is Hardcore. I was like, "Hey, I built this sky cam. Can I use it?" And they were like, "You'll kill someone with that thing if it falls from the sky." And so it will be liable. So they were like,
Yeah.
So I would need to take out like a massive insurance policy. And the thing is that venue, there's not a good spot to, because really you need two good anchor points. Right. And there's not a good anchor point because wherever I do it, like there's someone who would be able to throw something at it, like a drunk person. So I've used it in some closed off test settings here, like for test shots, but I really want to use it for something. Even if I use it for like a short film, like I just want to like show the world like this is what this thing can do. But as of right now, I haven't used it for any
Chucky Brown says, I believe he ended up repurposing some motors and gears that are built for electric skateboards for that sky cam.
Yeah, so the first motor that I used was for our remote controlled like a boat, RC boat that you put on a lake and drive around. But the motor wasn't powerful enough, and I blew the motor. So I ended up buying one of those motors for a electric skateboard, because again, those are able to support like people, like 200-pound people. So I ended up buying one of those motors, and then I configured the electronics to be able to like work with my remote control. So that's what works now. It's knock on wood. It's been able to sustain the weight of the camera and everything, and I haven't have not had any issues with it.
Oof. Is there any? I know another thing that you got into recently is, and I know you have a zest for this, is to sort of uncover those, like who's got those old VHS tapes buried away, Yeah. And I relate to that. I've that's always incredible when you're like, wow, someone's like, oh, I got this, I shot this on VHS. You've been, I saw, did you retransfer or recolorize a Youth of Today video? Is that what
I did? Yeah, I got a copy of one of the master tapes of the No More music video, and like there have been copies of that floating on YouTube, and they're like heavily degraded, not great, but
they look terrible.
They look terrible, and I got one of the first copies made from the original master. And this person, Dave Sausage, he gave it to me. I don't have it. He let me borrow it to digitize. Sure. And like it's the cleanest signal possible. And like I was able to, run some denoising on it, clean up the audio just a little bit, because there's always going to be a little bit. It looks amazing. So anytime I'm doing this like hardcore archaeology, like people always want to send me tapes, but the thing is, a lot of tapes that people have they're duplicates of a duplicate of a duplicate of a duplicate, and like I appreciate that people are offering it, but I'd rather track down the source recording if possible from the original filmer, because that's going to give me the highest chance of cleaning it the best. Give me the best case of cleaning it up. So I turn into Indiana Jones with this shit, and I'm like constantly trying to track down, like, oh, here's a photo of the show, here's a photo of the person filming in the background, someone's got to know who that is. And I've actually been able to identify people that way in a weird, creepy way of like, hey, I'll cold message people on Facebook being like, hey, here's a photo from like 89. I see a picture of you. Like there's a photo of you at the Anthrax holding a camera. Do you still have that tape? And they're like, oh, actually I do. I can dig it out and send it to you. So it's a lot of work, but again, like this is all part of the trajectory of wanting to preserve this stuff. Cause like those tapes have a shelf life. And if we don't digitize that stuff sooner than later, like those tapes are going to degrade and we're going to lose those moments in time. And like, man, I love seeing footage of Judge playing at the Anthrax in the late 80s. Like that stuff is so important to capture and preserve and to share with people. So I'm all about trying to track that shit down.
RS70 UGH, he says, hey, yo, Drew, didn't you get hit filming street bike stunts, serious hardcore? Yes, when I was filming my film 12 o'clock, somebody, I was shooting someone under the BQE, and someone behind me was messing around on a bike, and he lost control of the bike, and I turned around and I got hit, and I broke my toe, my foot, my hand, and my leg, and I got smoked. And yeah, that was. And then I went on to finish that film and do 8 films after that. So yeah, you got to have a passion for it, you know. And yeah, I've never. It took my leg a long time to heal, and it still hurts. It still hurts sometimes. Any holy grails out there for you?
Good question. I mean, in terms of VHS or what?
Yeah, in terms of VHS and shows that are out there. I mean, I know for me, you know, doing the New York Hardcore Chronicles film and actually the Boston Hardcore film, same kind of thing. There's a couple of shots, photos where you see someone with a film camera. We were actually talking to somebody about some CBGB's footage, and it didn't work out. But you know, sometimes you just you know it's out there. You know, you just gotta find it. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I love Inside Out California, so I'm always trying to hunt down. And a lot of their shows have been filmed, but there's still a couple that have not been accounted for. So I'm constantly on the hunt to see if those exist in any either audio or video recordings. But like there are definitely older venues that I know filmed their shows and they're sitting on those tapes. So I'm actually I don't want to spoil the beans, but I'm in the process of acquiring a collection from one of these legendary venues from the late 80s, early 90s. And I got to meet up with a guy. Yeah, so we were going to meet up during the pandemic, but he was concerned about COVID because he's a little older now, the owner. But now that things are clearing up, I got to hit him up again, be like, "Oh, how do you feel about me coming by and picking up those tapes?" So hoping to announce that at some point. I totally forgot this. I'm glad you brought that up. That I need to look into that again.
Yeah, there's like here in New York City at the Ritz, in what was that, the late 80s and 90s, they shot everything, and apparently all the stuff ended up in a storage unit, and someone didn't pay the storage unit bill, and it was auctioned off, and it ended up in somebody's hands. Like everybody played the Ritz back then, so yeah. I mean that is a regret that I have, is that I didn't shoot more. I didn't shoot more in the early 80s, because my dad is a filmmaker, and his company, they had like one of the very primitive VHS things where it was like a separate deck that it was a separate deck, and I borrowed it a couple of times. We shot an antidote, a couple of things, but man, I wish I would have borrowed it more. I wish I would have shot more, because just looking back now, it's just any of that kind. It was so difficult to get anything done back then. It was so, just shooting VHS was such a monumental, even back in 1983, it was not easy. Everyone didn't have a VHS camera back then,
Yeah. And I think that's why I'm so obsessive about filming everything now. Because if I go to a show and I don't have my camera, I get anxiety. I'm like, damn, I should be filming this. That's the angle I would get. I would be filming from there. I'd catch that stage dive. So I get obsessive about, I just got to film everything. Because I don't want to live with the regret of being like, damn, I missed that show, and that was ended up being that band's best show, or that was the last time that band played, or that member passed away shortly after that show. So for me, it's like I gotta film as much as possible. Like that's because I don't want to have that regret.
This is an interesting question, Sonny. Do you think that what you're doing will take the place of network media music-based access?
Oh, good question. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, certainly people are I do get a lot of feedback. Like now that shows are happening, at every show I've been to, there's a whole new crop of young kids that are coming out to shows, which is great. You know, we lost a lot of people who just dropped out of hardcore, but a lot of new kids are coming to shows now. And at every show, I'll have a handful of kids coming up saying like, "Oh, I'm at the show. I discovered hardcore because of a hate5six video. Oh, I discovered the headlining band because of your videos. I'm here because of that." So I think that the landscape that we're in now with online video in general, whether it's Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, TikTok, people are consuming so much content and media through video that I think that it is not just hate5six, but in general, like people are turning to video sources as a way of learning to new things or discovering, like hearing about news or just discovery in general is becoming so heavily video based that I think that I don't know if I'll like topple an online, like a massive, I'm not thinking that far ahead. I'm just thinking about like, what can I do right now? But I don't know, the anecdotal evidence is that people are using live video recordings, not just mine, but in general, to discover music. And that motivates them to then become a part of the scene, come out to shows, start their own band. And again, that's part of this whole thing of bringing new people in and getting people introduced to hardcore. Cause that's how this shit that's how you keep it alive.
Well, I think in a certain regard, I have, and you have to a much higher degree, we sort of created our own realities with Patreon and with our fan bases. And what's really great is, in a lot of ways, it's an extension of the DIY ethic, the ethos that really we all started with in this hardcore thing in the early '80s. Yeah,
it really is. And I was thinking about it recently. I don't know if I was heavily involved in another scene, like whatever it is, would I have been able to explore hate5six at this level? Because I really think that being in hardcore and punk, it conditions you to think outside the box. It conditions you to be like, oh, we need to put on a show. Okay, well, we'll just throw it in my basement. Our buddy will bring the PA. Like it forces you to be resourceful. And I think that hate5six is a product of being in this environment of like, you know what? If you see something that needs to be built, just go fucking do it or find out how to do it and you'll make it happen. So I don't know if I was in like any other community, if I would have been able to have that same drive to push it to this level.
Absolutely, you're preaching to the choir, right? I started a I started a live video streaming show in the pandemic, and people enjoyed it, and I figured out with some of your help as well how to sort of set up a model where people, if people have the option of supporting me in doing this, and people have been supporting me. They like it, and now it's sort of like what I'm doing for. It's like what. It's interesting. It's interesting because people know me now as the host of this show, and not so much as, let's say, a filmmaker or a musician. What I've done with this show has reached more people and touched more people around the world than almost anything I've ever done before. It's really interesting what's brought in the last year. How I hear from people all over the world now. It's pretty great.
Yeah, no, I love hearing that. I remember when we had that conversation, and like a lot of people ask me for advice, like, "Hey, I'm stuck in this job. How can I go do X, Y, Z?" And like, if I can be a model for people to follow, like that's awesome. Like I'd love to see people unlock their creativity and unlock their ability to do more besides answer to some boss 9 to 5. Like everyone has that thing that they wish they could do. Yeah. And I think people owe it to themselves to try. And like, I'm thankful and humble that I've had the support that I've received to be able to do this. And I'm trying to constantly pay it forward to motivate other people to like do whatever it is that you want to do, because like our time on this earth is limited. And if you feel like there's a higher calling to what you're doing, you got to find a way to do it. You got to find a way to, and I'll impart whatever knowledge and advice I can to help you get there. Like,
are you a straight edge guy?
I am. I don't use the label as much anymore.
I know. I'm not sure how else. I'm not sure how else to frame it. I don't mean to sound awkward.
But yeah, no, I am. For all intents and purposes, I am. Yeah.
Yeah. Vegan.
Vegan. Yep.
How does that come? How does that come into play, or does it? With hate5six, do you gravitate? Is that you or me? That's you.
The alarms. The sirens are probably me. South Philly's always popping up down here. Do I gravitate to what you were saying? You're on mute.
Let me rephrase that.
Yeah.
What early straight edge bands inspired you?
Oh, okay. So yeah, I love Turning Point, mostly because they were from the town over. They were from like Medford area in New Jersey,
Yep.
and that again, when I was like in early high school, I could not wrap my head around like, damn, there was a hardcore band from the town over me, and they put out this CD like this you know this amazing music, and they were teenagers when they did it. I could not wrap my head around it, so I was into that, and like again, when I was like collecting VHS tapes, a tape that I got had a Youth of Today set on it, and I was like, this is amazing. So I was really into like, YOT, GB, Turning Point. That's what really got me interested in like straight edge, and then like, stuff like Floor Punch and whatnot. But those, like, even though they technically weren't like a straight edge band, like Minor Threat, obviously, but it was really Turning Point is what I first got hooked on. Because again, I could not wrap my head around the fact that like, these are kids. They're from near where I grew up, and they're writing this music that like resonates with me. These lyrics that resonate with me about like living a clean, like sober life. Like that for me was mind blowing.
Michelle says Sonny's a huge Damnation AD fan. Is that right?
That is true. That is 100% true.
I don't know this band. Tell me about them a little bit.
They're like a dark metalcore band from DC, early to mid 90s, like really heavy riffs. It's got Mike McTurnan on vocals. His brother, Brian McTurnan, is a really well-known audio engineer. He was also in Battery. Ken Olden is on guitar. Ken Olden was in Better Than 1,000, has filled in for Youth of Today a bunch. Damnation is one of those bands where if they're playing, I will hand the camera off to someone so I can go in the pit, and that rarely happens.
Yeah,
Damnation's
but it does happen.
Damnation, yeah, it does happen. Damnation's like one of maybe 5 bands that I'll do that for. But yeah, they're up there for me.
Good. Hey, let me take my last break here. Shout out some sponsors, and let's come back and we'll take questions from around the world. Okay.
Cool.
What's happening? This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. Our guest is Sonny Singh from hate5six, chopping it up about being music documentarians. We are sponsored by the Texas Silver Rush, Generation Records, Chacho's Tacos, DTFM Vinyl Distro, The Organic Grill, and New York Hardcore Comics. Opened in 2013, selling comic books, punk rock and hardcore memorabilia, toys, statues, skateboard decks, tapes, vinyl, and all things horror. We love helping bands push their demos and new tracks, so please stop by and drop off your new music. We have in-store events like Magic the Gathering and Warhammer tournaments, plus meet and greets with bands and some live performances. Open 7 days a week and shipping worldwide. Find us online through Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and eBay. Located at 117 Main Street in lovely Dobbs Ferry, New York. www.newyorkhardcorecomics.com. Also, Organic Grill. Want to thank Vlad for sending down the food for the show on Sunday that we did at the Bowery Electric. He sent down 2 trays of yummy vegetarian burritos. Organic Grill is a vegan restaurant located in East Village, New York City at 123 First Avenue. Featured in New York Magazine, the New York Times, and Veg News. The dishes have won numerous awards, including Best Veggie Burger. They make their own cheeses, sausages, burger patties, and every dish on the menu can be made gluten-free. This year, they're celebrating their 21st anniversary, and they're all about having a great time while enjoying amazing, clean food. They have now fully reopened for business and look forward to seeing you. Get in touch with them and order some great food at www.theorganicgrill.com. I want to mention, a little self-serving here, yes, but hey, if you had a show, you would probably do the same. This Friday, out in Long Island at the Amityville Music Hall, the Ice Cold Killers are celebrating the release of Stories from the Grave. We are playing with them, Antidote NYHC. Yes, that antidote. The Ice Cold Killers, Antidote NYHC, Butterbrain, False Gods, and Fire is Murder. Come on out to Amityville Music Hall this Friday night. We will play music for you. Don't be scared. That is right. You know? Yes, Long Island. Yeah, it was great food. You know, is that a Hoy or Ezak hat? This is an Ezak hat, my friend. This is a Danny Diablo hat, right? Dollars make sense. There you go. A gift from Danny Diablo himself. That said, let's take some questions for our guest. Please post them up. Don't be shy. Let them fly. You know, let's go. Let's go deep. Let's bring our guest back on. Hey, Sonny.
That's good.
Here's a question, Sonny. Do older people give you a hard time with the whole quote "see the show in person and keep it underground" jive?
Yeah, not so much anymore. I did get some pushback early on, like hardcore needs to be exclusive. It needs to be, this thing. And like, why are you essentially saying it needs to be kept exclusive and not be made to the masses? I haven't gotten that feedback as much anymore. I do think that the older we get, people are realizing that like, no, these videos are actually important because like it's allowing us to relive our lives when we were younger and allowing us to reflect on people who are no longer here. So yeah, I don't get that as much, but early on I did get that pushback because again, it was such a unorthodox idea. Like, oh, the entire show is going to be online. Like, what's the point of that? So, I do think that attitude has changed over time, though.
Yeah, and especially with this pandemic thing, that's really shifted perspective.
Oh yeah.
Can Sonny speak? Here's one from our resident historian, Chucky Brown, who sings for Crazy Eddie. Can Sonny speak of the harm's way footage from This Is Hardcore that has been used with all kind of silly music while insanity is about to take place? Let me say something about let me say something about this. This harm's way footage. As I was getting ready to do the show, I saw that it has an incredible amount of views. It has a couple million views. And I asked Sonny about it. How did that happen? And explain what happened there, Sonny.
So so there's a specific 10-second clip from that set. This is Hardcore a couple years ago, where the singer is like running in place. He's a big muscly guy, and he starts like running in place on stage. And it's kind of funny, I guess. But what people did was they extracted that clip and they overdubbed it with other music. So Shania Twain, like every single pop song that you could think of, like a whole Instagram and Facebook account started of just taking that clip and overdubbing it with different songs. And so anytime you do a different song, it's going to resonate with whatever community is all about. That's all about that song. So all the Shania Twain fans like love that Shania Twain version. Everyone who loves like, I don't know, Justin Bieber loved the one that had Justin Bieber overdubbed on it. So it was actually genius, whoever was running this account. Even they weren't doing all of it, like other people were submitting it, but it really allowed this clip to reach a massive audience because someone somewhere.
In turn, it steered people to the hate5six.
Yeah. So if you go into the actual comment section of that Harm's Way video, a lot of the comments are like, "Oh, I'm here because of the meme. The meme was funny. The meme brought me here, but now I'm actually watching the video and I'm actually into the band now." So I love awesome. Seeing that. I love seeing that because again, my whole mission with this project is to use videos to have a band reach a large audience. And even though I never isolated that clip for the first time, someone else literally pulled it out and started the meme with it. Like that, it's that same idea of like, there's this piece of content that is now driving people to that band. And the band has even said that the most listens to that they had on Spotify, I think, was the day that video went viral. Like that video, like wow. If you look at the charts, like the viewership charts, like I can see that spike on my end. Yeah.
It happens sometimes. When we had the big show in Tompkins Square Park this summer that Madball played, I came home after the show and put up a Madball clip. Bam! You see my wow! It just I've never had anything viewed that much. It's just sometimes it's just right time, right moment, and then people start handing it around. Here we go. Vlad from Organic Grill says, "Hey Drew, Vlad here. We should bring Sonny to Organic Grill. So next time you're in New York, man, we're gonna meet.
All right,
we'll have a meal together.
Let's do it.
Down there. This is from Casey Rosario. This is Beto's wife and Caden, who plays guitar in Ape and Reaching Out. She was at the show. She says, not a question, but just thank you for all you do and being a positive mentor in the scene. Your videos kept me in the loop during my early years being a mom when I couldn't get out to the shows. You rule.
That's awesome. Yeah, and going back to the one of the first questions was like people saying, essentially giving me flack for filming is one piece of feedback I have gotten in the past is if you film a show, no one's going to come out to the show because they're going to wait for the video. And my argument is if someone has the ability to go to a show and they're willing to wait for a fucking video, like I love videos, but a video is never going to replace being at the show. If you have the ability to go to the show, but you're going to wait for a video, you would never go to the show to begin with. So like I appreciate Casey's comment here because really these videos, like they're for everyone, for people who can't be there because they have family commitments, health commitments, or they're just not in the country or they're not able to be here. Like these videos for all those, these videos that I create are for people like that. Like it's not for someone, like I never want someone to not go to a show because they're going to wait for the video because there's nothing to film if no one's at the show.
That's right.
I appreciate feedback like that the most because really like, again, I've gotten feedback over the years, people saying like, I got out of hardcore, but then your videos got me back into it. I'm now into all these current bands. Like, I love that. I love that these videos are keeping people connected and allowing people to reconnect with like a community that was so important to them growing up that they may have lost touch with.
Absolutely. Daz says, have you ever filmed shows in Europe or do you want to do that?
Yeah, I did 2 European tours with Mindset. I did a short European run with Have Heart. So I've been there a couple times, and I'd love to do it again. Once things are like fully open and looking better, like I'm definitely gonna hit the road again.
Makes sense. Our good friend Larry Kelly says, I can't wait to see the Bane Stu Memorial Show. Did you shoot that?
Yeah, so Stu, who had cancer in Bane, they were planning a celebration show for him.
Yeah.
One last send off and it was all the bands that he wanted to see, but he unfortunately passed away a couple days before that show. It was really tragic. But I went up there to film it. Everything has been filmed. The band had all the audio multi-track. I did not bring Len to multi-track it, but the band had someone there to multi-track. So I'm kind of waiting for them to let me know when it's good. And it's one of those things where I don't want to post it until it's 100% ready. But the footage is great. I ended up running 3 cameras for that, so it's gonna look and sound real nice when it's done.
When you run multi cameras, do you sit there yourself and edit it?
Yeah, so I do all the editing. I do all the filming too. So for example, like if it's a single camera video, that's always me behind the camera.
Right,
if it's a multicam shoot, I'm always behind one of the cameras, and the other cameras are either on a tripod or I have someone else filming with me, but I'm always behind one of them. But all of the editing is done by me. So it's people think I have editors. I have no one editing. I'm literally just sitting here editing by myself.
Yeah. Well, you have, I mean, you know what you're doing and right. I mean, that's tough. You know, I edit a lot of my stuff too. You know, it's hard to sort of hand that off when you've shot it and you're so close to it. Did Sonny film Have Heart's massive reunion show? Is he referring to the one in Worcester?
Yes, they did. That was 2 years ago now. They did a reunion show in the summer. It was almost 10,000 people at Worcester in the outdoor parking lot. So I did both shows at Worcester. One was indoors at the Palladium, which is sold out. All the shows were sold out. So indoor at the Palladium. Second day was outdoors at the Palladium with like 10,000 people. And then I went to Europe with them. We did 2 shows in Germany and then 2 in the UK. So total of, I did 6 of their 8 reunion shows. We're in the process of figuring out how to release it. Pat, the singer of the band, had a kid recently, so he's got a lot going on with that.
Yeah.
And we just have to hop on the phone to talk about like we want to release it right, do it the right way. So we're kind of just waiting for our schedules to line up because I'm more or less done editing. There's a little bit of editing I need to do still, but the vast majority of it is done. Pat and I just need to link up and figure out how we're going to kick it off.
What kind of storage bank do you use for all this media?
What kind of storage bank? So I built a RAID array. So for anyone who doesn't know, RAID is like you could store all of your any type of data on like a single hard drive, but if that single hard drive dies, you lose everything on it. So
I should turn the camera around and point it on my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 drives I have stacked up on each other here.
Yeah. So I use something called RAID, and RAID essentially takes a collection of hard drives and uses them in an intelligent way as one big hard drive. And it does it in such a way that even if one hard drive dies or 2 hard drives dies or three die, you don't lose any of your data. All your data is still backed up. It's still there. So I built a 70 terabyte RAID array that runs in my apartment. It is it's about 30 hard drives all running in unison, and it's very loud. It's literally sitting. I have a bedroom that all that's in there is this fucking server because it's so loud and nothing else is in there. So
what's keeping cool? What's keeping it cool? Isn't it danger of overheating?
There's a lot of fans in there that keep it cool. I monitor the heat, like the temperature is stable, so it's not too at risk of overheating. But I'm down. I say down, but I'm down to the last 6 terabytes on that. So that should last me. I did the math, like given how many shows I film per year and the average file size per band, that should last me a couple years. But I'm gonna need to upgrade that sooner than later. But all of my data is stored on this massive array, this massive server that I built. And if anyone wants more details, I have a whole I did like a live stream video on my YouTube channel where I actually go through the process of showing you how it all works. So if you want all the nitty-gritty details on how I built that system, it's on my YouTube channel.
Fantastic. We'll start wrapping it up and heading towards the door. Michelle says, what are your hopes for the future of your channel? Anything new coming down the pipe?
Honestly, I just want to keep filming as much as possible and reaching larger and larger audiences. I'm now at a point where bands are hitting me up, bigger bands that I've not worked with before, asking me hey, can you shoot our big show at the Electric Factory? Nothing I can announce yet. Nothing crazy big, like bands that I have worked with for a one-off in the past, but they're now coming back to me for their recurring video needs. So for me, that's a cool next step, is establishing myself as someone that people are now turning to for repeated work. Because some of these bands, they could hire, a massive film crew, but it means a lot that they're coming back to work with me. So stuff like that. I have my fingers crossed for some big stuff in 2022. I don't want to announce it because I don't want to jinx it, but we'll see. Honestly, I never have 5-year long goals. I really think about what is it that I want to do a month from now. I try not to think too far ahead.
Sure.
But I really, at the end of the day, I just want the platform to grow. I just want to reach a larger audience, and I really want more people to discover more bands. That's really all I want. Whether it's through Sage or other tools that I built, other AI tools that I built, or just filming more shows and just having that be people's gateway. I just want to do more of what I'm doing.
Cool. Johnny Rock says, Sonny, top 3 shows you filmed.
This is too tough because this always changes.
That's tough, man. I know that's like a loaded question. I know, but maybe a couple of highlights. Give us a couple of highlights. I missed that first judge reunion because I was filming my friend's wedding. The one the one we did in New York.
Yeah, and actually that photo that you posted of me sitting down, that was actually me taking a very rare snack break before judge. So,
I saw the judge laminate, and I
so that was that was night 2. So for me, that was that was a holy grail moment, being able to film a judge. That's always gonna be at the top of my list. There's so many This Is Hardcore sets, Disembodied playing there was amazing. I think the first time I filmed Youth of Today was pretty incredible. I think Youth of Today at Union Transfer with, I think Walter played on bass for that, was such a great set. Gorilla Biscuits at Garden Grove in California. That was,
that's a cool place.
If you watch that footage, I had 3 cameras on it. It's just incredible. Orange County really showed GB some love that day. That one's up there for me too.
Sonny, have you ever?
All I was gonna say is sometimes I film a band's first show and it hits me so hard that I'm that is my new favorite video. That's my new favorite show.
Yeah, of course. Sonny, have you ever cried at a show? That's a good question.
Yeah, I've cried. I cried at Mindset's last show. I'm not ashamed of it. I've cried at Mindset's last show, because that's a band I toured with. That's the band I filmed the most, and it was hard to say goodbye to them. I've cried during Damnation sets. Like if I'm going through some personal shit and Damnation's what I need in that moment, like I will shed a tear during Damnation or All Else Failed. Like All Else Failed is another band that I love, and like really depends on my mood. But those have been my bands that I go to when I'm having like going through something rough in life. And if they're playing at a time that coincides with me dealing with some shit, you might see me shed a tear in the pit. I'm not gonna lie.
I've cried on this show a couple of times. You know, yeah, I've cried. As far as I remember, I cried 3 times on this show. Mike Judge made me cry. Michael Graves made me cry, and Igor Cavalera, I believe. Those are the 3 times that 3 people that I've, you know, that really got me emotional. Chucky Brown in Japan, I believe he's been there twice. And there was an incident during the set of the band Jesus Piece at Blood Axe Festival. Can he speak on that?
Yeah, so I was on tour with Jesus Piece for that. We did like a whole run in Japan. Our friend Corey came along with us, and Corey's a very hard mosher. And the thing is, people in Japan mosh really hard. That's some of the hardest, most violent moshing I've ever seen was in Japan. So Corey was definitely at home there, just really beating people up and shit in the pit. But the Blood Axe show was towards the end of that run, and during Jesus Piece's set, he jumped on stage to grab Aaron, the singer, by the face to like scream the song back at him, and Aaron just pushes Corey back, and Aaron drop kicks Corey into the crowd. So it was a perfect, beautiful moment that I captured where Corey's like grabbing Aaron to sing in his face, Aaron pushing him, and then drop kicking him. And the entire crowd erupted in applause because they saw how hard Corey was moshing. And even though they mosh hard in Japan, I think they loved seeing Corey get his ass handed to him in that moment. And that clip went viral. Like people were sharing that left and right, just like because I uploaded that video with the title "Local Man Gets Killed at a Hardcore Show," and it got like so much traffic just from that headline. And it was amazing. And I still think about that clip pretty often.
That's awesome. Hey, I want to thank you for coming on the show. That was great. I really enjoyed having you on, and you know, we're kindred spirits, and you're a fellow archaeologist, a fellow musical archaeologist, man. And you know, we're from different generations, but you know, we're basically, you know, we're on the same boat with this. And I want to thank you. I want to thank you for, you know, you've helped me along the way. I've asked you advice, you know, with Patreon and stuff like that, and I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Like I said, I've always looked up to you, so for us to be able to connect and work on this level means a lot. So appreciate that. Anybody you want to shout out, thank any on the way out? Yeah, just want to thank Joe for giving me opportunities over the years. I want to thank anyone who's a Patreon subscriber. Again, you're literally making it possible for me to film all this stuff and post all this stuff. And anyone who even just watches or shares a video, like that, the fact that I can share my passion with people is the best feeling possible. So I just want to thank everyone for caring enough about this stuff as much as I do. Fantastic. And there, anybody watching, patreon.com/hate5six. Also check out the YouTube page, hate5six on YouTube. That was a great show, and let's keep in touch, man. Thank you. Sounds good, man. Take care. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Well, there you have it. Great show. That was nice. Nice little change of pace. Great talking to somebody that has an incredible love, you know, for this thing of ours. That was great. Thank you, Lou. Thank you over in London. New York Hardcore Comics, thank you for being a sponsor. Drumming Moose, most excellent show. Yeah, and also, any of you patrons out there, watch the video that I posted on Patreon to find out about the book. I need your information so you can get this free book. You know? Yeah, it was a great show. Rich, good to see you out there, man. You know, Rich Zoller in the house. What's next? Oh, this Sunday, is that right? This Sunday, Christian from Power Flow, Fear Factory, and Violence will be on the show coming up this Sunday. So that should be really cool. Yeah, he was a very interesting guest. Yeah, you could listen to another 2 hours. All right. Good to know. Thank you, Gene.
Thank you, Gene. Well, hey, RS, where's RS? I said, where's RS? Wait, I saw he posted something. Where is he? Hey, yo, Drew, who the fuck would be your all-time sickest interview? I've been asked that many times. Bob Dylan, Roger Waters, Paul McCartney, Ian MacKaye, Henry Rollins, Chuck Dukowski. I'd like to talk to him. Those are some people that really mean a lot to me in my world that I like to speak to. Bob Weir, if you know who he is. Bob Weir. Who else is real big in my world? Jorma Kaukonen. These are people that really... Ian Gillan, yeah. Yeah, sure. Love to talk to Ian Gillan. Yep. Ratbones was on the Ratbones checked in earlier. MQ, that's a good one. Let's get MQ on the show. So that said, I think I'm going out to Brooklyn to the screening of the Beyond film tonight. I think that's where I'm heading. So thank you, everyone. Good show. We do good shows here. That's what we do. Feel free to support this show on Patreon. Don't be scared. Hey, what's up, Jason? How are you, buddy? Yeah, it was interesting to hear Sunny stories. They were great. Hey, Shorty, what's up, man? Yo. All right, everybody. Have a good night. Thank you very much. We'll see you on Sunday with Christian. Until then, my friend, do good things, and good things will come to you.